you could please take your seats, we'll get started. I really hate to interrupt so much good conversation, but you came to order remarkably quickly, so I thank you for that. We'll start. I'm Eric Kaler. It's my pleasure to serve as the president of the University of Minnesota and to welcome you today to the Hubert H. Humphrey School of Public Affairs, and thank you for being here. We've been vigorously celebrating this year the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act and the role that Vice President Humphrey played in that important legislation. And I do think that if Vice President Humphrey were here today, he would agree that there is no more important issue than addressing the achievement gap, the opportunity gaps that exist in Minnesota and across the country. This is an exciting day for us. In a few minutes, you'll hear from R.T. Ryback about Generation Next and the progress we've made, and more importantly, about the progress we will make towards closing these gaps and helping all kids succeed. Closing the achievement gap and the opportunity gap is a high priority for the university and a high priority for me personally. I can think of no more important issue, more critical issue to the future of our country and our state and our university than assuring that our kids all have the experience, the skills, and the education they need to succeed. It's a moral and, frankly, an economic imperative that we address this. And for that reason, it's a real pleasure for me to co-chair the Generation Next Leadership Council with my friend and colleague, Kim Nelson. The group is a broad coalition of community leaders who are dedicated to an excellent education for all. At the university, we embrace our role as a convener, bringing together a diversity of people and ideas, and then together with the creation of new knowledge and understanding, and through a process of civil discourse to find responsible and innovative solutions to these problems. And we're applying that mission to this important issue. Across the university, our researchers and scholars and teachers have been and are working on improving outcomes for children. We have appointed a Campbell Leadership Chair, Professor Michael Rodriguez, to focus on the achievement gap and how the university can maximize our impact on solving this problem. We're working to align the research and the outreach that we do at the university to be more deliberate in bringing to the education community these outcomes and these research results. And we're trying to do that very much more quickly than we've done it in the past. Some examples. We're working with the Minneapolis Public Schools to expand access to quality early education in North Minneapolis. We're hosting an international conference on the achievement gap to bring together the best minds in academics and in the community to broaden understanding of the problem and best practices. Our College of Education and Human Development is developing innovative teacher training to ensure that kids have strong teachers in the classroom. And many of our faculty and staff are involved in Generation Next. This issue needs the attention and the effort of all of us together. And that is the core of Generation Next. To tell us more, I give you the Executive Director of Generation Next, R.T. Ryback. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and I especially want to thank President Kaler and his co-chair, Kim Nelson of General Mills, who have led this effort as co-chairs from the beginning. Can we please give them a round of applause for staying with us? Can we please give them a round of applause for continuing to do this and not leaving the rest of us in the lurch? Yeah. You're clapping too. You're clapping and you're not, but I hope that doesn't mean anything. We really appreciate everyone is here, and the intention of this whole day is to look around the room and recognize that no one is in this work alone and all of us are in it together. What we're going to do today is to walk through the results of about 2 years of community organizing, especially a year that's focused on a couple hundred people and tremendous amount of work in the community to say that this compassionate community has a common agenda for attacking what is the biggest issue we have. I'll do a very quick context of what is Generation Next and what are we doing. We'll then work Oprah style through the front row here as we walk through each of the 3 goals we're going to be talking about today, each one with an action. We'll talk about the 2 others that we're going to be focusing on the fall. We have an outstanding group of civic leaders to our right who will come up and talk about that. Before Kim Nelson finishes the program, we'll have the three people on the point on this in the state, Commissioner Brenda Casilius and the superintendents of both schools, talk to us about it. And we hope you leave here with a sense that this community is moving in the same direction, but with also a common purpose. And as you do that, I want you to think a bit about, as school is starting right now, about kids getting off a school bus. And I want you to think about their faces. And imagine, as you look at them, the fact that we hope that every one of them has a chance to thrive. Every one of them has an equitable chance to thrive. And yet the statistics say something different. The statistics say that in this community, if you want to determine whether a child has a likelihood of success, that success and the opportunity a child has can be predicted in part by looking at the color of their skin. And that is the shame of this community, and that is why we need to focus so much on that every child deserves an opportunity. This opportunity gap, this achievement gap, this inability for us to have a level playing field where everyone can succeed is something that has existed in this community for many, many years. This community that is number one in so many wonderful outcomes is also one of the top communities and possibly the top community in the country for gaps between white children and children of color. And we know this cannot stand. Now, many people have been working many years on this issue. And this compassionate community does not lack the heart to attack this problem, but we do lack alignment. We do lack focus, and we do lack the will to act and act now. We've needed an aggressive, comprehensive plan that really mobilizes this entire community around some specific set of outcomes that are measured by data and measured, more important, by each of us looking each other in the eye and saying, this cannot stand and things must change. So for 2 years, Generation Next has been building the coalition to craft these outcomes. This initiative grew out of the African American Leadership Foundation and also the University of Minnesota. It brought together a powerful coalition of most of the large foundations in town, an executive committee that, along with President Kaler and Kim Nelson, included leaders from United Way, Bush Foundation, Wilder, Target, and 3M. We built a leadership team that included the superintendents of both schools. I sat on this as a mayor. Mayor Hodges and Mayor Coleman sit on this initiative as well. We brought other foundation leaders together. The 5 goals you see up here are the ones that we agreed on. We built networks with several hundred people who worked many, many hours to build a consensus around these outcomes you'll hear today. We're going to lay out those outcomes. They're for the entire community. We are especially going to double down over these next few months in a few schools, an elementary and a high school in each city in the public system and a charter in both cities. We went back to our leading funders and we said, along with this work that we're doing on alignment in Generation Next, we need the funding community in this community to also align as well. And in a few minutes, you'll be hearing a very exciting new announcement that will show that funders are also aligning around these goals. We also have dramatically improved Generation Next's ability to tell the story about why do we have this incredible achievement gap, and more important, what works and what doesn't, using data to say more of this and less of that, and getting to the outcomes we need. So what that has meant is that we deepened our partnership with Wilder Research, and that means you can go to our website. Everybody can get the information that this community needs about why do we have this problem. Even more important, we've co-funded data positions in both school districts, and as part of that work, we're going to partner with the district and with outside partners to do a better job of using data to tie together what's working in school and what's working out in the community. As President Kaler also mentioned, we've dramatically deepened our partnership with all of the assets of this university to try to bring them together on the problem. Now, there is not one single action that we can take that's going to make sure that we level the playing field for all of our children. We're going to need many actions in many different areas and not a single excuse. When that kid walks off the school bus, they're not going to see all these people in this room today, but they do need to know that every one of us is at their back. We have to know that every child, no matter who they are or where they live, recognizes that this whole community is focused on making sure that every child has the opportunity they deserve. That we're ready to do whatever it takes to make sure this great community that has taken on so many incredible initiatives, and one, finally recognize that every child in this community deserves an opportunity to thrive. And with that, what we want to do is to walk through each of our actions. As you see up here, we have 3 actions. The first of those is that every child should be ready for kindergarten. And as that network has come together, how's my mic working here? Well, I'll turn it on. Okay. I'm not Oprah. As we talk about this, we want to introduce Carolyn Smallwood from Way to Grow. Carolyn is one of those several hundred people who've been part of these networks. And Carolyn, why don't you talk to us a bit about what we're going to do in Ready for Kindergarten?
Good morning. Good afternoon, everybody. In any event, Way to Grow is a nonprofit organization that has been serving families in the north and south Minneapolis area over the last 20 years. Matter of fact, we're coming up to our 25th anniversary. We know that early childhood development starts not only at birth, but we have to have the tools available to screen children. Screening is very, very important to identify those barriers that are associated with our kids getting ready for school. So it's important. We promote and we love the strategy of early education with Generation Next. We've been partnering with Generation Next over the last 3 years. Is that right? Since 2013? 2.5 years. In any event, with that being said, I would like to say is that you all know that in order for our children to be ready for school, we have to start early. So they're able to graduate from this fine institution like University of Minnesota. Okay? With that being said also, I would like to introduce a big advocate of early education. Charlita Mosley, would you please stand up, please? I'm going to do the Oprah style here now. Charlita Mosley moved here in 2005 from Illinois. She has 7 wonderful children, and I met Charlita almost 9 years ago. She is a Way to Grow parent. She currently has a graduate of Patrick Henry High School, right? And she worked for Hennepin County, and currently she works for Minneapolis Public School as a screening coordinator. Here's Charlita.
Hi, how's everyone doing today? As Carolyn said, I work for Minneapolis Public Schools, and I am the coordinator for early childhood screening, dealing specifically with the homeless and highly mobile population. But I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about my own personal story. When I moved here from Chicago, I have 7 children. At the time, I had a set of twins who were 3 years of age who were eligible for early childhood screening. Coming from the Chicago public school system, I really wasn't aware of early intervention services or screening tools or anything like that. Screening, as far as I was concerned, was what you received when your child went for a well-child exam. My twins got an early childhood screening, and the scores were significantly different between my son and my daughter. It wasn't unexpected to me because I had some concerns about her development, and they expressed to me that she really didn't have any cognitive concerns, but they were really concerned about her speech. And they made a referral for her to get early intervention services. She went through the evaluation process, and it was determined that she had an articulation disorder. So at the time, she received speech services for 2 years before entering kindergarten. And when she got to kindergarten, it was about her first week in kindergarten, her teacher gives me a call, and she goes, hey, I see Leah, that's my daughter's name, she has an IEP. And I'm like, yeah, she has an IEP. And she's like, what for? I'm like, well, she has an articulation disorder. And she's like, she does? I'm like, yeah. And but the good news is that at the end of the first marking period, which was roughly around November, so a couple months after starting kindergarten, they closed her IEP because she had met her goals. But had I not received an early childhood screening, been introduced to early intervention services, she definitely would have been in a deficit, because even at 3 years of age, I noticed that she was starting to shut down because people were constantly asking her, well, what did you say? Could you repeat that? So I just really want to stress the importance of it. And for those of you who work in the community and work with parents, really stressing to parents that they need to be advocates for their child's education and that they need to know what their rights are. So I thank you very much for your time, and thanks.
Charlita. So if you hear Charlita's story, you hear a story about a wonderful young girl who got into kindergarten on the playing field she deserved to be on, and there was intervention taken. Not at 3rd grade, but early, at 3 years old. That's why the goal of our first group is for universal screening for all 3-year-olds, and to connect those young people to the services that help them be ready for kindergarten. What's happened then is that we've taken the leaders from Minneapolis and public schools, the health community where many physicians are doing screening, the counties, many other social service organizations, Head Start in St. Paul in Ramsey County, thank you so much for your work, and really done the tough work of trying to tie all of that work together. So goal 1 will be to do the screening. Let's go to the next slide. And these are the measurements that we'll have to determine whether we have a success. The percentage of children obviously ready for kindergarten. Then the second point is we're obviously going to track how many 3-year-olds are screened and break that by demographics to keep a cool, clear eye on what this is doing to close the achievement gap. We're going to look at how many children are screened with the issues that haven't been previously identified. We want many more success stories like yours, Charlita, and making sure that we do follow-up and then recognize who is not being screened, and even when they're past 3, making sure that moves forward. Our second goal, then, is to make sure that all children meet their reading benchmarks by 3rd grade. Next slide. Right now, only 4 out of 10 Minneapolis and St. Paul 3rd graders are hitting that mark. 6 out of 10 are not, and that is not an acceptable outcome. So what we now are doing, I want to ask Nora Robinson from the head of tutoring partnership for the St. Paul Public Schools Foundation, who's been an incredibly helpful member of this network, to talk about this work. And I also want to underscore, this really grows out of some very successful practices the St. Paul Public Schools Foundation has been doing that Nora has been leading.
Thank you, RT. On behalf of the St. Paul Public Schools Foundation and our 20 community-based tutoring partners, I want to say that we're really grateful and honored to be a part of this launch today. So the St. Paul Public Schools Foundation has been partnering with Generation Next since 2013 because we believe the Twin Cities must become a place where all young people succeed in and out of school, regardless of their race. And we do our work with a deep commitment to quality and collaboration, alignment and transparency, values that are also fundamental to the work of Generation Next. As an entity that has been using a collective impact model in St. Paul for over 6 years, we are thrilled to see Generation Next develop a civic infrastructure around reducing educational disparities across the Twin Cities. As a Social Innovation Fund subgrantee, our tutoring partnership has been working on 2 goals that specifically align with the Cradle to Career framework of Generation Next. One, that every child is reading proficiently by 3rd grade, as you see here. And secondly, that every child is doing algebra proficiently by 8th grade. Through sharing best practices, tools, and training, the foundation builds the capacity of 20 tutoring partners to accelerate learning in and out of the classroom toward these goals. As such, we are proud to be one of over 40 organizations that have come together to form the Generation Next 3rd grade Reading Action Network. As a network, we have been meeting regularly and honing our commitment to sharing information, resources, data, and expertise. And together, we decided to pursue 2 initial strategies. One, that all tutors are trained in best practices and aligned with schools' literacy strategies. And secondly, to explore ways to support families in creating a literacy-rich environment. Through this network, we will use data to identify the most impactful strategies to help children be confident, competent readers. We will work collaboratively to implement these practices, scale them across the metro, and continuously improve through our learning. Across the Twin Cities, there are dozens of programs doing the very important, rewarding work of providing tutoring to our young people so that they may experience personal and educational success. Many of these programs focus specifically on literacy and have been active participants of the Third Grade Reading Action Network, providing the critical practitioner perspective. In addition, we have entities at the table who are providing expertise in tutor training and volunteer management, school partnerships, intercultural development, best practices, literacy research, and much more. We look forward to updating the community on our progress towards two network strategies of tutor training and family engagement. The work we're doing as a network is neither easy nor seamless, but it is genuine, and I am honored to work alongside so many literacy practitioners and professionals who believe in a better, brighter, bolder Twin Cities so that all young people can read and succeed. And now I've actually had the pleasure of meeting Jackie as we've been sitting here. But Jackie Polio, if you can stand up, I want to introduce someone who really does the hard work every day. Jackie has been a tutor with Project for Pride in Living, which is one of our tutoring partners. She's been in St. Paul at Fort Road Flats, and she's going to share a little bit about her story. And I also just want to say that Jackie is also a St. Paul Public Schools grad from Johnson. So cheers to that.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Jacqueline Polio, and I've been a tutor with Project for Pride in Living for 4 years through a program at St. Catherine University. For my first 2 years, I worked with a 3-year-old Somali girl, and although I didn't receive much training, my time with her, I learned a lot of different activities I could help her with to learn her colors, her shapes, her letters. It wasn't until my 3rd year with PPL that I really started receiving a lot of training to help our students with literacy and behavior. That same year, the location I was working at had to close, and I said goodbye to my 5-year-old student. But in a new location, I started tutoring a young boy, and it didn't take that much to realize that he was having trouble with school. Most days when I went to work with him, he would rather play games than to read or do homework. And I remembered one of the trainings that I had received earlier that year and how we as tutors needed to meet our students where they were, and that varied from day to day. Remembering that, I went to tutoring each Tuesday and Thursday, ready to meet my tutor where he was and finding ways to engage him in reading and improving his reading levels. Because he enjoyed basketball so much, we came up with a deal: 5 extra minutes of playing if he was able to stay on task. Some days it was reading a whole book, others it was just half a book. At the beginning of the year, he was under the expected reading level of a 3rd grader. At the end of the year, I was really happy to hear that he had met all of his benchmarks. On the last day I worked with him, I made him a card, and I walked him home, and he had a smile on his face that I will always remember. Thank you.
What you see in this example is the compassion of this community, but you also saw in the evolution of that the focus of this community. There are many, many fantastic individuals and organizations who help to teach children to read, but we have not taken the collected knowledge of all those groups and worked together. And I have to say, as a person who sat quietly, honest, in the back of the room and listened to these conversations, it was so powerful to see Nora and all these other professionals who may have 90% or 10% or 1% of the solution, putting it together so 100% of what we know in this community is used by 100% of every tutor, and that's the great work. We also are going to look a lot to our partners out in the community. Bishop Howell, I'm looking at you here with that great church in North Minneapolis to help make sure we bring this into the work out in the community. And then superintendents, we're going to especially focus on 2 schools so that you who are leading schools don't have to have all these different organizations with different strategies coming at you, but that we're all partnering with you every step of the way. So the third, let's talk about how we're going to measure success. We're going to look at the number of students proficient on the MCA readings, and again, break it by demographics. we're going to measure students receiving a high-quality reading intervention, and what high quality means is going to be determined by those professionals in the networks. We have a common standard on that. And we're going to have students in some selected schools meeting or exceeding oral fluency growth. And if we don't have that, we know that we are not making a success. Now let's move to the third goal, that every student graduates from high school, and always look at the second part of that sentence, college and career ready. Too many of our college students are taking high school classes in college, and we can't have that. Let's move to the next point. The current situation is about 4 out of 10 students in Minneapolis and about 7 out of 10 in St. Paul are graduating from high school in 4 years. That is nowhere nearly good enough. Those, by the way, are the statistics for the entire city. The scores for the districts are slightly above those. So what we're doing in this is similar to what you heard in literacy. We're taking all of those out-of-school partners, and after a lot of incredible work, we are going to have them unify their strategies so that every young person develops a life plan with a trained adult. One of those is from the mentoring partnership, Mayan Kopechny, who's been a great, great partner in this group, and I wonder if you could talk about your experience.
Thank you, RT, and thank you, everybody, for having me today. The Mentoring Partnership of Minnesota is extremely excited about this goal, as you can imagine, and we are even more proud to be able to stand with more than 30 of our partners in the community, and to be able to work with students both in Minneapolis and St. Paul, both in and out of school. We do believe that it is possible for every student to graduate, and we do believe that it's possible for them to pursue a post-secondary career of some sort, whether that be a skilled trade or whether that be a 2 or 4 year college. We want every child to succeed in that manner, because many of us in this room here have had that opportunity. We are blessed to have a lot of programs in our communities that work with students in Minneapolis and St. Paul. Many of our organizations, as we have developed this task force, have asked students, what is it that you need in order to be successful? And time again, these students say, we need you to open your doors. We need adults to listen, and we need adults to care about us. That's a simple thing we can do to help our kids. And we should do that. It's not a nice to do, it's a need to do. We have to do that for our young people. So as we looked at how we would tackle this strategy, it was unanimous by everybody in the room that we would make sure that every single child and every student was able to be connected to a caring, trained adult. And the key there is trained adult, to help them with their post-secondary plan, and also to just develop their sparks, to develop their passion for what they want to do in their future. I know that as I look around this room, and I see a lot of familiar faces, many of us have had a caring adult in our life who listened, who built our self-esteem, and who really guided us down the right path. Again, every child deserves that, and we are going to make sure that that happens. But that won't happen without many of you and everybody else in the community. We need to open up our hearts, share our time and our talents to make sure that happens, and we will train you to do that. And I guarantee that if we are able to do that, the students in our communities will benefit, because when they benefit, we all succeed. So we're really excited about this strategy, and I'm even more excited right now to introduce a young woman I just met a few minutes ago, but I couldn't be more proud of her. I mean, I can't imagine what your parents feel like, but just in the few minutes we've talked, I'm extremely proud of you. This is Husana Ibrahim, and she went through Project Success, and she's going to share her story, and it's an amazing story. So congratulations.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Husna Ibrahim, and I'm 18 years old. I was born in South Africa, and my parents are from Somalia. We now live in North Minneapolis. I'm currently a student at the University of Minnesota, majoring in biology and minoring in Spanish. And I'm also a graduate of Patrick Henry High School. I was in Project Success for 3 years, and I loved every minute of it. My first Project Success workshop was in the 10th grade, and it was a beautiful surprise.
My parents, they've never been to college before, so for me to go to college is huge. But we couldn't afford college like most people. But Project Success provided a caring adult that helped me understand that college is possible and that financial help is available. Project Success steps in and says that you are important. You can be somebody great. Laura, my Project Success facilitator, is amazing. We did activities to help us take our mind off things and also to help us find what makes us happy. This doesn't just happen in 1 year. Project Success follows you from the 6th to the 12th grade. And I would ask myself, why would somebody follow you for so long? But then I realized that they believe in each and every one of us. The fact that Project Success is following us for so long is Project Success saying that I'm going to work with you, you can make a difference in your life, and we are here to help. Project Success has ingrained something in our lives that I like to call dream building. Dream building is, to me, being authentic and finding what makes you happy. Laura helped me build my dream and also set a timeline and so I can meet my goals. The world gives you so many limitations, but Laura helped us to remove those limitations and to set goals and help us see our ability to reach our dreams. Project Success did not pick me because I had certain GPA or because I had certain scores or who my parents were. They picked me because I was a kid. Project Success said that you're a kid, you have a dream, come on, let's talk. When I was young, I thought that the University of Minnesota was a place where interesting, smart, and also talented people go. And I thought, I'm never gonna get there. But now I'm here. And sometimes I just have to say, wow. Husna Ibrahim at the University of Minnesota. Project Success helped me realize just how much passion I have for achieving my dreams. And when you see the goal in front of your eyes, it becomes real. There are so many tragic stories and statistics about the education system today. But I want to remind you, this is not a losing battle. Caring adults who take the time to make a difference actually make an impact. Project Success takes the time to make an impact every day with every student that they serve. These interactions create a ripple effect. It gives people hope. Hope is life. That is Project Success. Thank you.
Well, I guess I'm going to say something now. I don't need any statistics to know that she's going to succeed, okay? But along with Project Success, most of the major mentoring partners are part of this network. And it, again, is so powerful to see them working together and sharing their successes. And here's how we're going to measure. The number of students graduating in 4 years, obviously, the students enrolling in a post-secondary education, the adult volunteers trained in college and career readiness and post-secondary plans. And what's important about this is both in St. Paul, where they have the 6-year plan, and in Minneapolis, where they have My Life plan, there's a technology platform, there is work within the districts that is done. What we're especially going to do is to make sure, along with their families and along with their counselors, there are additional adults helping to play that role. We're going to look at students completing those post-secondary plans and them reviewing them with a trained adult, as we talked about in this criteria. So here are our 3 actions. We're going to screen every 3-year-old. We're going to unify the tutors in reading and create this family environment. We're going to have a caring and trained adult working in each of these areas on high school graduation. In addition to that, there are two other goals for Generation Next that we'll be moving on to in the fall. The first of that is that every student masters math benchmarks by 8th grade. One of our members of our executive committee and a phenomenal partner for both her and her company in all of this work is Kim Price. And Kim from 3M, I wonder if you could talk just very briefly about our work in 8th grade math.
Thank you, RT. I'm happy to be here. When he told us we were going to do Oprah style, I was waiting for a car. But then I heard you. And you all, the testimonies I've heard today are better than any car. So thank you. I mean, wow. And I have to say to you, RT, we dressed alike with Post-it notes. I didn't know that. Who knew? But anyway, you don't go anywhere from 3M without a Post-it note. So anyway, I'm delighted to be here. And I tell you, I had to hold back my Oprah cry. I mean, the stories we heard today just have moved me beyond measure, and I know I speak for so many of us in the audience today. But I'm here to represent 3M and Generation Next. And so as a science-based company, 3M welcomes the opportunity to collaborate, or as I like to refer to it, co-labor with Generation Next. President Obama noted at the last White House Science Fair that we need all hands on deck to advance STEM. And for those of you who are not familiar with STEM, because I'm a lawyer, so I wasn't too familiar with it until I came to 3M, is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And as part of that initiative to get best hands on deck, we've hired Meredith Crosby, who is our new Director of Strategic Initiatives, including STEM. Meredith, will you please stand? Meredith brings a wealth of knowledge from McDonald's and also some free gift certificates for hamburgers, so thank you for that as well. But what we hope to do with our work with Generation Next is to leverage some of the STEM learnings that we've experienced and we've gained as a result of our 40-plus year partnership with the St. Paul Public Schools. Thank you, Valeria, for entrusting your students to us. And we have a lot of learnings, and we hope to leverage those learnings in STEM for the greater good. And so as I take my seat, I was going to be brief. I wanted to leave you with some words from a famous doctor, not one of the famous scientists, but 3M, but a prescription for preparing the next generation of innovative thinkers. And those words are from a famous doctor, Dr. Seuss. And those words are, and you've heard them before, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to get better. It's not. Thank you for coming and caring a whole awful lot.
Thank you. The other goal that we'll be working on the fall is the idea that every young person has a college degree or other post-secondary certification. The second part of that sentence matters a lot because we are obviously very focused on college, but we are also very focused on many different pathways to success. Every child ready for college, every child taking a path where they can thrive. One of the many partners who's been part of that is Rasul Destamon from St. Paul College. And Rasul, I wonder if you could.
Thank you, Artie, and I think it's safe to say it's good afternoon. Thanks for being here. I don't know whether my presentation is going to top any of these smart folks in here with a lot less problem than I have, but we fully endorse all of the goals of Generation Next, explicitly goal number 5, which has to do with transition into post-secondary, earning a certificate and or diploma. Why is it so important? Well, the key to middle class earning is higher education. The key to narrowing the achievement gap and employment disparity we're here in the Twin Cities is getting an education and seeking some form of certificate or diploma. And perhaps transition into workforce, which we hear a lot about. Within about less than 5 years, we're going to have 70% of jobs will need some form of a higher education, certificate, diploma, post-secondary education, and or transition to any of the finest institutions in the Twin Cities, including University of Minnesota. Because there are lots of us around the table in here, and we all do a good job in terms of providing opportunities and access. In many ways, we are about creating a pipeline. And if the pipeline, the way it's been explained, from K through 3, literacy, healthy children, into somebody who would mentor students and provide an opportunity for a viable career plan as well as education plan, our work, which is mainly reducing rework phenomena, getting the students who are ready, we can take a lot of our resources and put it toward other things that are much needed in our schools. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you for including me. And we're excited about being a partner. Thank you.
Thank you. Another key partner of that, sitting right behind them, is Paul Prebino from Augsburg College, who not only leads Augsburg, but leads the private college network throughout the state, and that's been extremely important. As we're doing this work, woven into all of this will be work in a couple of key areas. One of them is in the social and emotional health of a child, especially their resilience and their grit. Another is the issue of what we're calling global competency, which is the ability not just of kids of color, but every kid in the next generation needs to be fluent in the ability to cross cultural barriers. We will be doing that work. We will also be enhancing our work in reaching out and engaging the communities even more deeply. Mike Hang from Wilder, who's been a phenomenal member of our executive committee, has been a passionate advocate for that, and we thank you very much for that. Along with this work of unifying these several hundred people who are out there doing the work, part of what we are charged with doing at Generation Next is to bring together the funding community and the policy community in this state and this region, and especially in Minneapolis-St. Paul, to make sure that we are also aligned in the same direction. Our hope was this work would also inspire others to do even more. And so we're very proud today to make a very special announcement, and so I want to welcome to the stage from Target, Laisha Ward, and from United Way, Sarah Caruso.
Laisha and I are so proud to share the stage with all of you, and I want to extend my personal greetings and really congratulations, not only to those who have spoken, but to all of you in the audience who are part of this journey and part of what will become the transformation of our community when every child is successful. At United Way, we share this commitment to make our hometown a better place to live for all of us by investing in healthy lives, stabilizing family, and most importantly, helping our children succeed. 2015 is going to be a momentous year, both for Target and United Way. United Way will celebrate 100 years of serving the Twin Cities community, and Target will reach its milestone of giving $1 billion to education. How about applause for that? Together we strive for impact, transforming our hometown, seizing opportunities, and taking on new challenges. One of our greatest challenges here in Minnesota and across the country is education. As you heard earlier, Generation Next is working hard to close the achievement and opportunity gaps, positioning students for success. Although current statistics in the achievement gap are sobering, there are schools that are beating the odds. That's why Target and United Way are excited to launch the Bright Spots initiative. This effort leverages the good work of Generation Next to identify and reward K-12 public or charter schools that are bright spots in the community. I'll ask Laisha to tell you more about this exciting program that responds to the call for action, and I want to say how grateful we are at Greater Twin Cities United Way to count you among our closest partners. Laisha?
Thank you, Sarah. How is everyone? I'm really impressed that it's still summer, and it was a little damp this morning, and all of you are here. You know, how we leverage our time says a lot about what's important to us, so I am thrilled that so many of us are here, and I think that speaks to the importance of this issue and, quite frankly, the individual commitment and accountability that we all have to do something about improving education outcomes in our great city. So thank you very, very much for being here. I, too, want to thank Sarah for her tremendous leadership and the entire Greater Twin Cities United Way team. President Kaler, Kim, Nelson have been extraordinary leaders. Thank them. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank my own team at Target, Reba Dominski, who has been on the executive committee providing leadership with Generation Next, and others on my team, all here before you. I'd ask you to stand and be recognized for the tremendous work that you do, not only here, but all across the country, focusing on improving education outcomes. Thank you. You know, we really believe at Target that every child deserves a quality education regardless of race or socioeconomic background, and that education is a pathway out of poverty into economic opportunity, and it certainly was that for me. I, in fact, attended Head Start, an early childhood development program for low-income families. So I can speak firsthand about the importance of those early childhood programs and the pathway to opportunity that it created for me, allowing me to go on to become the first in my family to graduate from college. I'm also really pleased that Charlita explained to me that that speech impediment I had is actually called an articulation disorder. Thanks, girl. Because I had a very bad one, and with a lot of support from caring adults and other professionals, certainly was able to master that articulation disorder. But early detection and a great deal of support from many, many people went a long way. As Sarah mentioned, Target is really excited to build on our existing commitment to this community and to announce a $1.1 million investment to increase the innovative ideas and evidence-based solutions that are accelerating student performance and success. Thank you. But before we congratulate ourselves, we got a lot of work to do, right? So our goal is to work across sectors and shine a light on the best practices in schools that really help drive academic achievement and quite frankly, accelerate that achievement so that more students are able to reach their full potential. So we want to move with a great sense of urgency around this work. And as many of you know, we have a new CEO at Target, and his name is Brian Cornell, and he just started last Tuesday. And within his first 24 hours, I pounced immediately to talk about the importance of this work and what we were doing. And it was one of our first interactions. And I was thrilled that he was very supportive of this investment in our community, our local community, supportive of our investment in education, because Brian understands the critical importance of our tradition of supporting corporate social responsibility, including education, here in the Twin Cities and across the country, with a goal, as we've said today, of putting more U.S. children on the path to graduation, including some form of post-secondary education and, quite frankly, lifelong learning, given the importance of that today. So I'm really thrilled that Brian will have the opportunity to participate and be a part of watching the Bright Spots program come to life over the next several months. And as my grandma says, and I'm notorious for quoting lots of my grandmothers, there are very few things in life you do well by yourself, and I think she's right. And this partnership between Target and the United Way is really going to be at its very best because of the alignment that RT talked about earlier. We're coming together with Generation Next, the Minneapolis Foundation, and their Education Transformation Initiative, the Minnesota Business Partnership, the Itasca Project, the Minneapolis Public Schools and St. Paul Public Schools, who have been tremendous partners of ours for many, many years. We appreciate their leadership and, quite frankly, keeping it real for us so that we keep students at the center of our work and really talk about what's going to be best for students, their families, and educators. So we appreciate their authenticity and their willingness to speak up and ensure that we're doing what's right, but also to listen to our ideas and to collaborate to do what's right for kids and families as well. All of these partners are really committed to working collaboratively. Again, keeping students at the center of the work and making sure that we do what's right to make America's future bright. This is an economic imperative for our country. We need to build the leaders in the workforce for the future, and education certainly is an important component of that. So I want to take my time to say thank you, to recognize those who are standing and working alongside us, certainly all of you in this room. Thousands of people who are outside of this room, working in local communities at a very grassroots level, doing their part every day. This is to thank them as well. But if you allow me to thank the members of the Bright Spots Initiative in particular for the heavy lifting that's to come after this announcement, right? We expect results on behalf of kids, and so today is a continuation of that journey. Certainly R.T. Ryback for being a fabulous leader for Generation Next, being a cheerleader, but also doing the heavy lifting and the hard work. Amy Hertel from ETI and the Minneapolis Foundation. Amy, can you wave? There she is. Thank you, Amy. Jim Bartholomew from the Minnesota Business Partnership, who is here with us today as well. Jim is somewhere in the audience. where he should be. And he and Charlie will be at the table, I promise. Beth Kessler from the Itasca Project, who's done so much great work on behalf of education across the K-12 and post-secondary spectrum. We really appreciate her leadership. Superintendents Bernadine Johnson and, of course, Valeria Silva, who I mentioned earlier from St. Paul, tremendous partners and thought leaders. Let's give them all a warm round of applause for all that they do. Planning for the initiative is underway, and so we're going to ask you to watch for the United Way and Gen Next websites and other gatherings for more information about our progress so that you can be our partners again in holding us accountable for leveraging this moment to do what's right for kids and to really amplify the impact of our work. Along with the United Way and all of you here today, we know that education can change a child's life. We know that. And we also know that based on truth-seeking and truth-telling, that while the graduation rates across the country, quite frankly, and even here in Minnesota are on the rise, the achievement gap for students of color persists. And it's unacceptable. We can do better. We have to do better. We can and we will through our individual and our collective impact, I think, make sure that kids are not only beating the odds, I think we should strive to change the odds so that they're in their favor. And we have the capacity to do that. Each and every one of us can and must do that. It is this spirit and legacy that has made the Twin Cities great. And so while we honor that legacy, I want to make sure that both here and that our national global competitiveness, our ability to be innovative and quite frankly to be secure is not only something we talk about in the past, but that we ensure that we have our sights firmly set on the future. And the future is deeply rooted in the education of our children. So I'm looking forward to a bright future and working on this Bright Spots initiative with all of you. Thank you very much. On behalf of Sarah and I.
Thank you very much. Target's new CEO will do some wonderful work in this community, but I hope part of his legacy will always be in his first 24 hours. He said, yes, let's put an additional $1.1 million into Bright Spots in education. Thank you again for Target and United Way for being part of that work. It's terrific. Now can I ask the front row there to all step forward here? As we're doing that, could I call out to the people in the other room? Not only do we have an auditorium filled here, we have a huge overflow room over there, and I'd like to also thank my team at Generation Next, if you can raise your hands. Jana Hottinger and Christy Cody, who led the planning for this event. Victor Cedeno, our Director of Policy and Networks. Jeremiah Ellis, our Director of Outreach. Jonathan May, our Data Director, who's been tremendous. It is really, really thrilling to have this kind of an outcome of leaders who can help us move the dial. We've heard from community, we've heard from foundations. We're going to also hear about the leadership in this community. One person who is not here, who would like to be, is Ramsey County Commissioner Rafael Ortega, who had an issue come up, and St. Paul Mayor Chris Coleman, who is now leading, and Jane Eastwood, if I'm right, a tour of AVID students in Glacier right now as part of this work that they're doing. It's very tough work, but Chris always knew how to get the better jobs. But I do need you to know how deeply and passionately Mayor Coleman has been involved in the social and emotional body of this work, in which that is a very serious and important outcome, and he's been great. So now let me welcome somebody who campaigned from and from the first day on the job began work on this, Minneapolis Mayor Betsy Hodges.
Watch the cord, everybody. So who's excited about what's been outlined here today? I want to say great work to the folks at Generation Next, to R.T. Ryback, and especially to all the volunteers on those teams who have come up with, the next stage and the next round of how we're going to make sure that every single kid in Minneapolis and St. Paul has the opportunity to contribute to and benefit from our growth in our entire community. This is the next wave of our leadership. We cannot afford to leave them behind. And I just want to say thank you to all the folks who made this happen here today. So can we get a round of applause for people who did all that work? Well, you start running for mayor, in about 5 minutes you realize that half the campaign is going to be about education. But part of the reason you're running for mayor is because you want to know that because you want the city to go well, because you want the city to thrive, but not, and this is the way I've always thought about it, I don't necessarily want the city to thrive as much as I want the people in the city to thrive. And there's no one more important in that category than our kids. And they are crucial to the future success of our entire community. They're crucial to the future success of our city enterprise, certainly, but to the city as a whole and to this region as a whole. This is job one. This is absolutely job one. So I'm proud to be part of Generation Next, proud to be on that leadership council, proud to have Victor Cedena from Generation Next on my Cradle to K cabinet, which is focused on the youngest Minneapolitans, our 0 to 3-year-olds. It's even before early education. It's making sure kids get ready for early education, which is why I want to appreciate especially the focus on screening. Screening at 3 years old is going to help us know how kids from 0 to 3 are doing, and that's where Cradle to K is going to be focused. So keep an eye out for more of that as we integrate that work with Generation Next and do that partnership together on those very early years. I'll be focused on that as my team is focused on all the work happening at Generation Next. Congratulations to everybody who made this happen. It's very exciting.
I'm Peter McLaughlin. I'm from the Hennepin County Board and a member of the leadership team. And this is an incredible affirmation of our responsibility to the children in this community. You know, we all benefited from that as we were coming up. Adults taking responsibility for our education. Now it's our turn for this generation and the next generation of kids in this community. So that's really what this is about. It's a great affirmation. I always love being in this room. You know, Vice President Humphrey has that look in his eye. He's watching us, okay? And this was a man of great aspirations. And I got to believe he's smiling down at the work that we're doing here today and the affirmation of the future and our children today. I'm happy to report on some of the work that we're doing at Hennepin County, and I want to make sure that I acknowledge Commissioner Jan Callison, my colleague. I don't know if she's in this room or the overflow. I know she took the train to get over here, but she's here. And Carol Miller, our staff person. They've been just incredibly strong leaders in what we're doing. We did when you think about Hennepin County, we touch in some fashion most of the kids and the families who aren't doing well in school in some way or another. And we decided, we did a study of what's going on with young people in foster care, probation, and the children of teen moms. And frankly, there's no surprise. We're not doing well by those kids. We need to own that because we're saying we can do better by these kids by intervening in their lives. We need to own that. And so we are, and we're stepping forward as a part of this effort in this community, trying to do our job to do better by these young people. Number one, we funded last year an initiative, $1.4 million, to do 3 things: developmental screening and service referrals to follow. So this is absolutely consistent with the idea of screening by 3. So we're going to do screening of the children who are either in foster care, probation, or children of teen moms to make sure that we understand where they stand, where they have difficulties, and refer them to the services they need. Number 2, we're funding improvement in the quality of early childhood education and early childhood centers, training and support for quality that will feed into the parent-aware rating system. And then 3, we're providing $1 million in scholarships, additional scholarships, which have been incredibly successful so far to work with the families and the children that are in particular need in Hennepin County. You know, we're all doing our part. Everyone needs to step forward. This is the way in which we're stepping up. Everyone else in this room needs to step up as well to do this work to make sure that our kids can succeed. There's some big funding and policy issues that are still in front of us. Basic in terms of early childhood, we've got basic sliding fee waiting list. We've got 4,100 families on that waiting list in Hennepin County alone. We've got oversubscribed scholarships, way oversubscribed, and the MFIP child care system is more about a job and less about the child, and we need to make sure we work on that policy as well. So we're doing all those things. We want to step forward. This group is powerful here today, and we need to sustain this effort because we've got a responsibility to do what others did for us as we were growing up. Thank you.
Muy buenas tardes. My name is Carlos Mariani Rosa. I'm a very fortunate, blessed person. I am that way because, oh, by the way, before I say anything else, thank you, RT, Kim Nelson, Dr. Kaler, for your leadership. Getting this community to this place, no small feat. We owe much to your vision and to your energy and your commitment. Thank you, all three. My good fortune really lies in the fact that other people, as Commissioner McLaughlin shared, believed in me. I have been blessed to raise a family. I currently have a child, my youngest child in college. I have my 2 grandchildren in St. Paul schools. I have a daughter who graduated from President Privenel's college. We're all over the map. And it's a good thing. And Leisha talked about the framework of beating the odds versus changing the odds. In many ways, my own life has been about beating the odds. Inner city Chicago, did not speak a word of English when I first attended school. And here I am leading the Minnesota Minority Education Partnership and chairing the Education Committee in the Minnesota House. Because people believed, people provided supports, but I also get it that in many ways that was about beating the odds. Even with my own kids, a lot of that has been about beating the odds, and that doesn't feel good enough because there were plenty of others who stood by me and with my children who didn't get to those places. This is what this is all about, changing the odds. The conversation and the work that is right here, right now, is the real work. Take it from a politician whose job is to create laws that create the space for us to do the work, and in the process of doing that, I get caught up in incredible political rhetoric and stuff, which unfortunately I think is hurting our society. So there's the so-called evil corporate reformers, there's the so-called evil teacher unions, the so-called evil parents and evil, and all our political rhetoric revolves around all that. And yet this community right here is cutting right through all that stuff, rolling up its sleeves and getting down into the practical work that we need every day of supporting our institutions, but more importantly, supporting our students, our young people. Our team talked about having your back. That's really what it's about. When young people feel that when they know someone's got my back, okay, then I'm in. So our job here is about how do we get better, as good as we've been as a Twin Cities area, how do we get even better at doing that? And that's what Gen Next is created to foster, and I proudly stand with this organization, with this community in doing that. I would be remiss if I didn't say that in my work at MEP, one of the other values that we strongly share with what's happening here in Gen Next is the value of lifting up racial cultural competency, awareness, and really getting into that work as being the place from which we're centered as we build those relationships with students in order so that they feel that we have their back. It's tough work. But it's work that we all have to be about. We work it in discipline disparities. We work it in college access work. We work it with ELL, asset-based approaches and promoting that. And quite frankly, as a legislator, all that stuff has crept into the work that I do at the Capitol. In the last couple of years, Commissioner, we've done just, in my opinion, mind-boggling work. Everything from getting rid of high-stakes testing so that we can get to the real rigorous stuff, which is about students' hearts and desires and aspirations in building a career and an education plan around that, as opposed to just simply passing a test, as important as tests are. We reformed the integration revenue program to tie academic achievement solidly into that. We created the world's best workforce, which, by the way, those outcomes line up with those with the core outcomes that RT shared at the beginning of the day. There's an incredible alignment that's happening in our state. Expanded opportunities with undocumented students when we passed the DREAM Act, the best DREAM Act law, by the way, in the country, because we're not just allowing access, President Dasklaus, to your school, we're also providing financial aid. Think about the power of that. Got your back, man, you know. Not only are you going to be able to come in, but we're actually going to provide the public's resource for you to be able to do that work. We reformed the ELL code, and it's nation-leading work, folks. Check it out. It's all about asset-based focusing, that a student's other language, their first language, is not a bad thing. It's not a thing that needs to be remediated. It is a thing because it's that student. Have your back. That's what we're about here at Gen X. That's what all of us are here about as we coordinate our efforts and align with the sector we're at. It is such a privilege for me to be engaged with all of you. I truly feel blessed. Let's go forward. Thank you all.
Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to start by echoing the thoughts of those before me and thank the great leadership of Dr. Eric Kaler, my friend and mentor Kim Nelson, and R.T. Ryback in bringing the Generation Next initiative to where we are today. Thank you very much for your leadership. My name is Sylvia Bartley, and I am here as the co-chair of the Education Work Group for the African American Leadership Forum. I'm here today to tell you about the connection between Generation Next and the African American Leadership Forum. The African American Leadership Forum is a movement of African Americans, including myself, in the Twin Cities, who are committed to the revitalization and sustainability of a vibrant African American community. We are over 1,000 strong, and we stand united in the belief that we can do more collectively than we can individually. We recognize in order to achieve enduring positive change in our community, we need a truly transformative agenda. One that is exciting and refreshing, one that challenges the status quo, and one that changes the game. We would like to play an active role, and we believe we should be driving the agenda to ensure that this is so. Our motto for the African American Leadership Forum is Our Voices, Our Future. Education is one of the key focus areas of the forum. It's the gateway to opportunity for our youth, and too many of our Black children are being left behind. Education is the backbone of a vibrant, healthy community. The Education Work Group of the forum has dedicated itself to finding out how best our community can help close the academic achievement gap for our children and all children. This is critical to ensuring the success of our children. The Education Work Group consists of over 50 passionate, dedicated people, and I see many in the room today: Carolyn Smallwood, Kim Nelson, Samuels, Karen Kelly Arawala. Can't see too much with the lights, but there's many of us here today to support this effort. These people are teachers, community service providers, school leaders, parents, concerned citizens. Basically, we are Black folks that come together to say, what can we do? What can we do to find a solution to this problem that riddles our community for so long? We show up on Saturday of every month at 8 a.m., rain, shine, or storm. We are there in force to engage with our school and district leaders. All three of these nice young ladies have been at our meetings, sharing our strategies and goals. We share visions, we come together, and we talk about how can we close that gap. And more importantly, we report out at the Saturday meetings on the good work that's done by the individual members between every second Saturday of the month in how they collaborate, champion, and convene with our stakeholders to help close the gap. The work isn't done on a Saturday morning, the work is done in between the meetings, and we report out on a Saturday morning. And we share again and strategize with our key stakeholders. Dr. Robert Jones, one of the former co-chairs of the African American Leadership Forum Education Work Group and the senior vice president of the University of Minnesota, he was the person that first brought this collective impact education model idea to ALF. There was strong support for exploring an effort similar to the approach employed in Cincinnati, known as the African American Leadership Forum, in partnership with the University of Minnesota, then brought the idea to the broader Twin Cities education community. And the community embraced it wholeheartedly, evidently. The African American Leadership Forum is thrilled with the progress that Generation Next has made in the 6 short months under his leadership. We have been fully engaged in this effort from the beginning, in the leadership roles and as network participants. We believe Generation Next is bringing greater alignment and clarity to the work that must be done to truly tackle the opportunity gaps our children face. And we offer our continued support and our commitment and engagement in Generation Next as we move into the next of this important work. The time is now. We really have to succeed in closing the gap. Excuses no more to be successful. So we fully support Generation Next and other such initiatives that work towards closing the gap, and we look forward to continue to working with each and every one of you to make sure that this happens.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Sylvia and everyone, RT, Kim Nelson, Eric Kaler, for bringing this initiative. I know everyone said thank you, but I remember back in 2011 going to one of the very first meetings here at the University of Minnesota and seeing that room, and I feel it here today. It was just 4 years ago that Secretary Duncan came to Minneapolis and spoke at a luncheon, and he said there was a lack of urgency around the achievement gap. Well, I'm glad to see that the urgency has arrived in Minnesota and the conversation has changed. The challenge, though, is still the same. It's not an easy one. John Maxwell, one of my favorite authors, has said that as the challenge increases, so does the need for a really strong team. With this focused agenda, Gen Next moves from plan to action, and it's really good to see. The governor in 2011 vowed to take on the education as his top priority and worked with the legislature, as Carlos Mariani talked about, to deal squarely with achievement gaps, disparities in opportunity and access for our children that were facing our state, facing our counties and our cities and our school districts. In 2011, we implemented the 7-point plan. Many of the items, like Carlos said, are right in your agenda, which is so good to be so aligned with the state, because then comes right policy and comes the right kind of funding. Today we're making strides forward. We're seeing early progress because we're working together. Together we're making early progress with Bernadine and Valeria's leadership, early strides, but we need to put on the accelerator faster, and it's through partnerships like that we're hearing about today that are going to help us get there. Together, we're changing this story, and we're changing the opportunities for children. This is especially true in the early grades with our bipartisan efforts around pre-K, of birth to age and grade 3 emphasis. It is affirming to see that Gen Next is focusing on pre-K and the early learning screening, as well as kindergarten readiness, and also looking at a strong commitment to 3rd grade literacy. We've implemented the Read Well by 3rd grade in Minnesota. We've partnered with the Reading Corps to get tutors, very similar strategies. So good to see that alignment happening. Minnesota, by the way, has moved from 22nd in the nation to 10th in the nation in 4th grade reading, truly because of the good work that people are doing. We've also closed achievement gaps at fourth grade reading by 10 points between Black and Hispanic youth and white youth. So we're seeing progress. We're also seeing those gaps close for the first time in decades, and we're very proud of that work. We've also put a strong focus on graduates, so we're hoping this supportive effort will help them with an early warning system to provide early data to school districts so that they can make early interventions for students. Like Carlos said, we require a plan for post-secondary. We've raised our goal to 90% graduation. Minnesota has some of the highest graduation rates it's had for over a decade, but again, like Laisha said, unacceptable disparities, and we have to put the solid work right there. And one of the things that we've done to accelerate that is by having the graduation rates disaggregated by student group at the high school level. Before they didn't count. Now every kid counts in Minnesota. You can clap for that. I'm excited about it. So the good news is that we're now aligned in private. We're aligned county and city, we're aligned district and state, and we are going to be making a huge difference for kids because we're aligned around equity and excellence for every single Minnesota kid. So I want to thank you for your continued support of public education, ensuring every Minnesota kid has what they need to be successful and happy like Husna, and that it will take all of us together to move forward. See, I believe it's the adults that create the conditions for children to be successful in. And today, we're making those commitments to our children and to our school districts to do just that. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to be here and to see this day. I also want to thank the leadership of Kim Nelson, President Kaler, and R.T. Ryback, as well as Sarah Caruso and Laisha Ward and their teams for this great announcement that they made today. I will share a quote with you from John Dewey, and those of you who are students of John Dewey, I'm going to paraphrase it. And what he said is, what the best and wisest parent wants for his or her child be what the community wants for all of his children. Anything else less is less than ideal and destroys democracy. So we're here today to make sure that we're building a strong community, strong group of citizens coming for us. I remain committed and optimistic to the work that we're doing and the work that Gen X is doing. I will tell you that I've been at the table from day one. I was really attending the African American Leadership Forum meetings when Robert Jones brought this work forward, and I've been excited about it because I love hearing words that people have said before: integration, intentional, because as superintendents, we get a lot that comes at us, and quite frankly, sometimes we have to make decisions between the good and the good, and it's sometimes can be a little overwhelming for us. I commend, as I said, RT and his team for working closely with my staff, keeping us involved and engaged every step of the way, so they're not trying to do something to us. They're at the table saying, come give, and let's combine that with the expertise of others so we can make this great work, and I'm very appreciative of that. We already have many outside partners who do a lot of great work in Minneapolis, but sometimes it's very hard to coordinate and align this work. And I just want to share a story with you. When I was the principal of Elizabeth Hall Community School in North Minneapolis, at the time it probably was the worst performing school in the state, and for sure in Minneapolis. And at that time I had lots of support. I had people coming in trying to do everything to support the school. I felt overwhelmed by it, and I believe my staff did as well. And what I did is I actually asked them to leave. I asked all the people who were coming in helping us very politely. I said, I need you to leave because quite frankly, I can't get a handle on what needs are and how impactful you're being. And of course, I got a call from the district office saying, you sent so-and-so away, but it wasn't to be disrespectful, it was to try to get to more intentionality. So what I systematically did, these needs, and this is where there's an interest, and this is where there's a match. I invited those individuals back in and those organizations. This is how you can help. And at the end of that work, each organization could say how they made an impact, and we could say how it impacted our work. And to me, that is a powerful example of what you can do when you have collective impact and you have intentionality around the work. So I just wanted to share that. We're also finalizing strategic plan we're calling Acceleration 2020. It's a bold and ambitious plan that would accelerate academic improvements in and through schools. So those big change and big success opportunities coming toward us. We're developing a process currently for creating community partnership schools to gain more autonomies in the areas of curriculum, budgeting, and time. Many of you may have heard about that when I did this big shift speech. I'm looking at Linnell over there. We will continue to enhance the effectiveness of our staff and find ways to retain experienced, effective teachers in our district and leaders. Recruitment of diverse staff will continue to be a priority of mine. We're also looking at money following the students, where we're adopting needs-based student funding in our district and behavior standards, more quality time, so we're not pushing students out of school, we're keeping them in school, and this has been a major effort the district has taken with partnership with MMEP. But we also have created the Office of Black Male Achievement, where we're trying to focus on the needs of our students that are least served within our school community. We're calling 5-8-10, 5% increase in overall academic achievement on the state standards in reading and mathematics, an 8% annual increase of students who are performing below the state standards, and especially our students of color, and a 10% annual increase in the 4-year graduation rate. These are aggressive goals. This plan aspires to change these attitudes. It's about dreaming big and having the right plan and staff in place to accomplish our big goals. And we can no longer have a dream deferred for our students. We have to have our students dreaming big, as Husna said. Thank you. We cannot do this work alone, and regardless of what you think about me, or RT, or Kayla, or Kim Nelson, there's no one here, I'll tell you that. And so we need people who are committed to working alongside us. And I want to just say also, because this is important to me, as a superintendent, you have to have a great board. So I want to recognize my chair and vice chair out there, Richard Mammon and Jenny Arneson. And I see Kim Nelson. There may be other board members in here, but I tell you, superintendents need strong board support to do this work, so I want to make sure I just mention them. So this is a great city. It's a generous city, and Minneapolis has benefited from that. We haven't always delivered on but we plan to do that. I want to thank all of you who've been supportive of the work that we're doing and have been there to say, how can I help? How can I lend my voice? How can I give my influence? And how can we make Minneapolis a better place for the students that we're because, as I said, the best city, so goes Minneapolis Public Schools, so goes the city of Minneapolis.
I'm not sure why you make us stand, but it reminds me my mother wanted me to be taller. So then her, in that time, you know, those things that they tell you to do, I for about day because that would make me taller. It has not worked yet. So I wanted, being the last one is in many ways quite because all the wonderful words came from many of the people that came here. But this feels like a family reunion to me. I became a superintendent over 5 years ago. And I didn't know how hard this work it is. And echo whatever Vernadia said for the other side of the city. But what I knew is I have hope. I have a lot of hope that if we, some way in St. Paul Public Schools, we could align, we could look at our work in racial equity, and we could believe in all our students, we can get to the next level. And believing and doing and actions is quite different. So I've been kind of a troublemaker a little bit for Generation Next because I'm very impatient. If you don't know me, you will know that. I want and ready and moving. So then it has taken us, and they had to listen to me every month when I just go in my little tantrums. As a superintendent, it's not easy to move, in my case, 6,500 educators. But moving a whole community is an impossible goal. And I never do that either. But being here and seeing all of you, that there's a true alignment. It's not about which agency shines the most or which school gets the best result. It's about all of us. I came to this country 28 years ago, or 29 years ago, and I've been in the district for 28 years. I decided to stay in this country not because I was going to be in any way rich. I stay in this country because I believe it was some possibilities for the true education. Because in Chile, where I'm from, you didn't have that. Wherever you were born, you were going to be going to that school, and it was nonsense to get a good education in many parts of the cities. So as you are young and naive, I decided to stay in St. Paul. Never ever thought I would be standing in front of all of you, neither I would be standing in front of the students in St. Paul. With all these years, I can tell you that I cannot be more proud to be the superintendent in St. Paul. Some days, don't talk to me, because we all know politics are very important. But what I can't go to sleep at night, and it's starting to happen, and everybody told me it will, but it's when I know there are many kids who are graduating or not graduating, or they are getting the test to the 10th percentile. Students deserve as much as my son did in St. School, and my grandniece and nephew, which are Carlos Mariani's, one of them, deserve. Why? Why in the state of Minnesota, in a city as strong as Minneapolis and St. Paul, we still have this disparity? We still go home every single day. We still go to have to buy meat, and we all continue living. When we have strong future generation of future leaders that we are leading on. And I just third largest district, the reality is that years. As much as we there, we're moving. And the fact that we are all focusing, this is all of us. This room is first. It's a place here and see. You know, yet, but we'll walk. In any position is not what 5-6 years old. So with that, I will give it back to the big and for being here.
It's still thank the many of the schools who we're also working with. Finish this and finish. As I bring Kim, I do want to thank Mills, who's important. Many years came in so this partnership through greater MS. Thank Ken Powell, fantastic leader. And now I'm going to pay who's the work on this, Kim Nelson.
Thank you, RT. Everyone, I'm here as RT's Relations for General Chair privilege. The thing I want to do is I want to thank who have partnered and Generation Next and been a work that created the action agenda that you saw today. It's phenomenal work, and we have not seen this deep community engagement in a very focused way that's actionable outcomes. I want to thank all of you for the work that you've done. I also want to thank today for providing, really bringing to life what it means, what these action steps are all about, and also to collective impact approach, meaningful and into territory. And lastly, I want to thank our tremendous RT and his stellar staff who is really galvanized our efforts. Tremendous amount of motivation that we're all feeling in the room together. To you, RT. So, I know that we're facing community. We are well past this challenge that people have made. That you've heard, I don't know what will convince us of to do this. Concrete steps for how we can help children ready for kindergarten. You can help our children be in third grade and help our children to graduate from this. Isn't the end. Commitment dollars. Now, you've heard our commissioner of institute that they can and do more. We most certainly can challenge. Our efforts are set well. They are not easy. You impact effort and opinions, and there's all sorts of the process to you get to better, and it doesn't take long. But the problem this complex, it's not one agent, it's not one organization, there are no silver bullets. The kind of that have addressed on multiple levels